We are watching. We are learning. Every missile fired, every drone launched, every weakness exposed. You think the war begins when soldiers step on your soil, but we know better. We do not need to invade your cities. We do not need to land on your beaches. We do not need to fight the way you expect. We will study your response. We'll measure your fear. We will watch your politics. We will test your economy. We will strain your supply lines. We will turn your own technology against you. And when the pressure comes, your people will blame each other. You will not know what is true. They will not trust their leaders. They will not trust their media. They will not trust their neighbors. You built a nation of convenience. We will attack the convenience. You built a nation of division. We will feed the division. You built a nation depending on the systems. We will shake those systems. Fuel, food, power, banks, ports, communications, trust. One by one, we will test them all. The Iran war is not just a war. It's a classroom, and your enemies are taking notes. The question is not whether we're watching. The question is, are you?
That may sound like something out of a movie, but let me tell you something. That is exactly how our enemies think. While most Americans are watching the Iran war just like it's another headline, China, Russia, terrorist groups, cyber actors, and every enemy of this country is studying it like a playbook. They're watching how America responds. They're watching how fast we move. They're watching how divided we are. They're watching what happens to our economy, our fuel prices, our supply chains, our politics, and our people when pressure starts building overseas. And here's the part most people are missing. Our enemies do not have to beat the United States military in a straight up fight. They do not have to invade America to damage America. They can attack our systems. They can attack our trust, our economy, our infrastructure. And if they do that, they can make Americans turn on each other before the first enemy ever steps foot on our soil. So today we're talking about the Iran war, what it really means for the United States, and what our enemies are learning from this conflict. Because the war may be happening over there, but the lessons being learned from this could come home to us later. And if you're a prepper, a parent, a patriot, or just someone who wants to keep your family safe and ready, you need to understand what is happening. Not to panic, not to live in fear, but to prepare with your eyes wide open. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Kelly, you're watching Patriot Prepper. And today we need to talk about something a lot bigger than Iran. Because while most people are watching missiles, drones, oil prices, and the headlines coming out of the Middle East, our enemies are watching something else. They're watching us. They're watching how America responds. They're watching how fast we move, how divided we are. They're watching how much pain the American people can tolerate before public support starts cracking. They're watching how our military handles drones, missiles, cyber attacks, the proxy forces. energy disruptions, shipping lanes, and political pressure all at the same time. And here's the part that should make every American sit up straight. The Iran war may be happening over there, but the lessons from this war are being studied by China, Russia, North Korea, terrorist groups, cyber groups, and every enemy that wants to know one thing. How do you hurt the United States without having to defeat the United States? That's the real danger. Because our enemies don't have to march down Main Street with tanks to damage this country. They don't have to invade our neighborhoods. They don't have to beat our military straight up in a fight. All they have to do is create enough pressure, enough chaos, enough economic pain, enough cyber disruption, enough political division, and enough fear that America starts fighting itself from the inside. And that's why this conflict matters. Not because we need to panic, not because we need to run around screaming World War III every 5 minutes, but because we need to understand that modern war is not just bombs and bullets anymore. Modern war is fuel prices, it's cyber attacks, shipping delays, empty shelves, propaganda, civil unrest. Modern war is your bank app not working correctly, or your power grid getting tested. Modern war is your family not being prepared when this system starts wobbling. And if you think our enemies are not studying every second of this conflict, you're not paying attention. As of right now, reporting from Reuters and other outlets show this war has already involved U.S. and Israeli strikes, Iranian retaliation, attacks that threaten the Gulf shipping lanes, pressure around the Strait of Hormuz, stalled talks, rising oil concerns, and a growing economic strain. And that matters because the Strait of Hormuz is not just some random waterway on a map. It is one of the most important energy choke points on Earth. And when that region gets unstable, oil markets react, fuel prices react, shipping reacts, insurance rates react, food production, fertilizer, trucking, and eventually your wallet reacts. So when someone says, why should I care about Iran? That's on the other side of the world. Here's the answer. Because the world is connected. And when the Middle East catches fire, America might not feel the flames here immediately, but we almost always smell the smoke. Now let's talk about what our enemies are learning. Because this is where it gets serious. China is watching this conflict very, very closely, and not just casually. They are studying it. They are studying how the U.S. forces respond across long distances. They are studying how America supports Israel, protects bases, defends shipping lanes, handles drones and missiles, keeps their allies calm, and still manage domestic political pressure at the same time. The Council on Foreign Relations recently argued that one of the lessons China may take from this war is it may not need a clean battlefield victory against the United States if it could just create enough economic and political pressure to limit the American decision making. And that right there is the key. China doesn't have to copy Iran. China's not Iran. China has a much bigger economy, a much larger military, and massive cyber capability, a huge industrial base, and long-term strategic mindset. But China could look at this conflict and say, how much pressure can America take before it hesitates? How many fronts can America manage before it stretches too thin? How quickly do American voters turn against this long-term conflict? How vulnerable are the United States supply chains? And how dependent is America on global shipping? How much economic pain does it take before Washington starts making decisions based on fear instead of strength? And that's what they're learning. And if there's ever a future crisis over Taiwan, the South China Sea, or any major cyber attack against American infrastructure, do not think China will only be thinking in terms of ships and jets and missiles. They will be thinking about pressure. Pressures on our economy, our ports, our supply chains, our power grids, our politics, our people. Because modern enemies understand something that many Americans don't. You don't always have to beat the country by destroying its military. Sometimes you could beat the country by exhausting its population. You make life expensive. You make people angry. You make people scared. You make them distrust their leaders, distrust the news, distrust each other. And then you just sit back and watch them tear each other apart. That's not conspiracy talk. That is strategy. And Russia is watching us too. Russia is looking at this war and asking, how does America handle another major crisis while already stretched across the world? Russia is watching U.S. stockpiles, right? They're watching our air defense performance. They're watching our political messaging. And they're watching whether the American people still have the stomach for overseas conflict. They're watching whether the U.S. can handle pressure in Europe, the Middle East, and the Pacific at the same time. Because every missile fired, every interceptor used, every ship deployed, every dollar spent, and every headline that divides the American public gives our enemies information. War is not just destruction, it's data. Every conflict becomes a classroom. And right now, guys, the United States is on the chalkboard. Now let's bring this home. What does this mean for us? First, it means fuel prices can become a weapon, right? If energy markets are disrupted, even temporarily, Americans feel it fast. You feel it at the gas pump. You feel it at the diesel prices, the grocery prices, delivery cost. You feel it in your electric bill. You'll feel it when farmers, truckers, businesses, and families all start paying more to move, produce, and to survive. That is not something we ignore. Because most American families are already stretched thin. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people think already groceries are way too high. A lot of people are struggling with insurance, rent, mortgage, credit cards, fuel, and basic bills. So when a foreign conflict adds more pressure, it does not take much to push people over the edge. And this is where prepping comes in. Prepping is not about hiding in a bunker with a tinfoil hat yelling at squirrels. Although let's be honest, some squirrels do look suspicious. But prepping is about reducing your exposure to chaos. It's about saying, if fuel jumps in price, I do have a plan. If groceries spike again, I do have food stored. If my bank app goes down, I have cash. If the power goes out, I have backup power. If the news gets crazy, I can stay calm and make smart decisions. That's what preparedness is. It's not fear, it's responsibility. Second, this war shows that drones and missiles are changing everything. Iran and its partners have spent years building missiles, drones, and proxy capabilities designed to overwhelm stronger enemies. And we're seeing it right now. That is one of the biggest lessons of modern warfare. You do not always need the best fighter jet in the world. If you can launch cheap drones, swarm systems, cyber attacks, and missiles that force your enemy to spend millions defending against thousands of dollars of incoming threats, That is a lesson our enemies are studying. They're looking at cost. They're looking at volume. They're looking at saturation. They're looking on how many cheap systems it takes to stress expensive defense systems. And here is where it affects us as regular Americans. That same mindset can be used against infrastructure, power stations, fuel pipelines, ports, rail networks, communications. What about water systems, hospitals, our emergency services? You don't have to destroy everything. You just have to disrupt enough key nodes to create a cascading problem. That is why preparedness matters. Because when the systems fail, even temporarily, the government response may not be fast enough to reach everyone. And I don't say that to bash anyone, it's just reality. In a major event, emergency services are overwhelmed. Supply chains slow down, communications, man, it gets messy. And people who already had a plan are always in a better position than the people who waited for someone to save them. The third thing is our enemies are learning how powerful information warfare actually is. The battlefield is not just Iran. It's your phone. It's your social media feed. The comment sections. It's in the headlines. It's in fake images, manipulated clips. It's in rumors designed to make Americans angry, scared, divided, and confused. Every major conflict now comes with an information war attached to it. We're seeing it every day. Our enemies know that Americans are already divided. So what do? They push both sides. They amplify the anger. They make every issue feel like it's the end of the world. They make Americans hate other Americans. They make people start believing everything or make people believe nothing. And eventually, truth becomes fog. That's dangerous. Because when a real emergency happens, confused people make bad decisions. Scared people make emotional decisions. And angry people make reckless decisions. And unprepared people become desperate people. So one of the most important preps that you can have right now is not something you buy. It's discipline. Discipline to verify your information. Discipline to slow down and not share every wild headline. Discipline enough not to panic. Discipline enough to say, what do I actually know? What is confirmed? What is rumor? And what do I need to do today? That is how you stay ahead. Fourth, the conflict shows how quickly America can be pulled into wider problems. A war with Iran doesn't just stay neatly inside a box. Iran has connections and influence all across the region. Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq and Syria, the Houthis in Yemen. They got cyber actors, right? They got shipping threats, energy threats, terror concerns. And every one of those pieces create another way for the conflict to spread. That means America may not just be dealing with one enemy in one location. We could be dealing with a network. And that is exactly what our adversaries want to study. They want to see that if the United States could handle a multi-domain, multi-regional conflict without losing focus, military pressure in more than one region, right? Economic pressure in another, cyber pressure at home, political pressure from inside, social pressure online. That is a future of conflict. Not one big obvious attack, but thousands of little cuts. And this is why I keep telling people, do not only prepare for one scenario. Do not prepare for power outages or a hurricane or civil unrest. Don't only prepare for war, prepare for disruption. because disruption is a common denominator. Fuel disruption, food disruption, power disruption, banking disruption, communication disruption, medical disruption, security disruption. See, when you prepare for disruption, you're not chasing headlines. You're building resilience. Now let's talk about what we should actually do, because I don't want this video just to be doom and gloom. That really don't help nobody. The goal is not to panic. The goal is preparation. So here's what I think every American family should be doing and looking at right now. Number one, tighten up on your fuel plan. You don't need a gas station in your backyard, but you do need to think about your fuel situation. Keep your vehicle from riding on empty. If your gas tank's always on E, your emergency plan is already behind. Store fuel safely and legally if you're able to, right? Make sure you rotate it. Use stabilizer when needed. Understand what your generator, your vehicle, your chainsaw, or your equipment actually uses. And if fuel prices jump or shortage happen, do not be the person trying to figure it out after the line is wrapped all the way across the block. Number two, build your food buffer. Not panic buying, not hoarding, a buffer. Start with what your family already eats. Rice, beans, pasta, canned meat, canned vegetables, maybe soup, peanut butter, oats, coffee, seasonings, comfort foods, and yes, coffee is a survival item. You could disagree if you want, but if the grid's down and mama doesn't have her coffee, now you have two emergencies, right? Anyways, build slowly, right? Buy extra when you can. Store it properly, rotate, and keep enough food in your home that one bad week doesn't become a family crisis. Number three, get your water squared away. Water is not optional. You need stored water. You need a way to filter water, to collect water, and you need a way to disinfect water. Most people go weeks without food, but only a few days without water. And yet water is still one of the most ignored preps in America. Have cases of water. Have water containers, filters. Have purification tablets or bleach knowledge. Know where your local water sources come from. Because when the water stops coming out of the tap, the clock starts immediately. Number four, keep cash on hand. Now, I'm not talking about your whole life savings like stuffed in a mattress like a cartoon bank robber, but enough cash to function if cards are down, if banks are down, if ATMs are empty, or the payment system glitches. I'm talking about small bills, ones, fives, tens, and 20s. Because in an emergency, the guy selling the fuel, the food, supplies, he may not be able to break 100. Digital money is convenient, right? But convenience is fragile. Cash gives you options. Number five, improve your home security. War overseas can lead to economic pressure here. Economic pressure can lead into disruption. Disruption can lead to crime. That doesn't mean you have to live scared. It means you have to stop living clueless. Start locking your doors, use lighting, trim those hiding spots, and start knowing your neighbors. Pay attention at gas stations or in parking lots. Do not bury your face in your phone while you're walking to your vehicle. Have a family plan and understand that the best fight is the one you avoided because you saw the problem early. Number six, have backup power for small essentials. You may not need a whole house generator, but you should be able to charge phones, radios, flashlights, battery banks, medical devices if needed, and small electronics. A small power station, a solar panel, a vehicle inverter, rechargeable batteries, flashlights, lanterns, simple stuff, right? Because a short outage is annoying when you're prepared, but becomes dangerous when you're not. Number seven, get your communication plan together. If cell service goes down or gets overloaded, how do you contact your family? Where do you meet? Who picks up the kids? What is the backup location? Who is the out-of-town contact? Do you have radios? Does your family know how to use them? Because if your entire plan depends on your phone working, you don't have a plan. You have hope. And hope is not a strategy. Number 8, pay attention without becoming addicted to fear. There's a fine line between being informed and being consumed. Check reliable sources. Watch for patterns. Look at fuel prices. Look at shipping news, cyber warnings, or local conditions. But do not sit all day doom scrolling yourself into a nervous breakdown. At some point, you have to stop watching the storm and start securing the house, right? That is the prepper mindset. Now let's bring this back to the bigger picture. The Iran war is showing America's enemies several things. It is showing them that America is powerful, but stretched. It's showing that our military is advanced, but expensive to operate. It is showing them that our alliances matter, but it also creates obligations. It is showing them that shipping lanes and energy choke points can shake global economy. It is showing them that drones, missiles, proxies, and cyber pressures can create strategic effects without even a traditional invasion. It's showing them that American people are tired, divided, financially stressed, and politically reactive. And it's showing that maybe the fastest way to hurt America may not be to attack America directly. It may be just to make America unstable. That's the part people need to understand. The next major conflict may not look like what we expect. It may not start with a big mushroom cloud or troops landing on beaches. It may begin with fuel jumping overnight, then a cyber attack, port disruptions, propaganda online, then protest, then banking issues, supply chain delay, then a foreign crisis, and then another domestic crisis. And before most people even understand what is happening, they're already reacting emotionally instead of thinking clearly. And that's why we prepare. Not because we know exactly what's coming, but because we know disruption is possible. We know the prepared family is harder to control, harder to scare, and harder to break. So here's my message to you. Do not watch this war with Iran like entertainment. Do not watch it like another news cycle. Watch it like a warning. Because China is watching. Russia is watching. Terror groups, cyber groups, cartels, they're all watching. Every enemy of this country is watching. And they're asking the same question. What did America reveal about itself? That should concern us. But it should also motivate us. Because we cannot control everything happening in Washington. We cannot control Tehran, Beijing, Moscow. We can't control oil markets. We cannot control the global shipping. But what we can control happens inside our own home. We can control our food storage, our water plans, our emergency cash, our fitness, our training, our family communication plan, situational awareness. And that's the difference between fear and preparedness. Fear says, what are we going to do? Preparedness says, we've already talked about this. Because the world is getting more unstable. The warning signs are stacking up. And whether this war ends next week, or if it drags on for months, or turns into something bigger, the lessons our enemies are learning will not disappear. They will store those lessons. They will refine them, and they will apply them later. Maybe in Taiwan, maybe in Europe, maybe in cyberspace, maybe through our economy or our infrastructure, maybe through our own division. And when that day comes, most Americans will act shocked. We should not be shocked. We should be ready. So tonight, I want you to do one thing. Do not fix everything at once. Just pick one weak spot. Food, water, fuel, cash, power, security, communication. It don't matter. Pick one. Fix it. Then move to the next. That is how real preparedness works. One step at a time, one layer at a time, one decision at a time. Because when the world gets unstable, the prepared do not need to panic. They need to execute. And that's what this channel is about. Not fear, fantasy, no nonsense. It's about real world preparedness for real world problems. If this video made you think, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment below. Tell me what you think our enemies are learning right now from this Iran conflict. Because I promise you something. They are learning something. The question is, are we? Stay safe, guys. And remember, those prepared today survive tomorrow. Patriot Prepper out.